I need to tell you about the moment that changed everything for me. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was standing in my kitchen staring at my glucose meter showing 187. Again. For the third day in a row. I had just finished what I thought was a healthy breakfast. Whole grain toast, a banana, a glass of orange juice. Everything the nutrition guidelines told me was good for managing blood sugar. But my body was telling me a very different story. I'm Dr. Hannah, and I've spent 23 years as a cardiac surgeon. I've operated on thousands of hearts, seen countless complications from uncontrolled diabetes, and watched patients struggle with blood sugar issues that seemed impossible to fix. But nothing prepared me for the day I became one of those patients myself. My fasting glucose had crept up to 112. My A1C hit 6.2. My doctor used that word nobody wants to hear. Pre-diabetic. She handed me the standard advice sheet. Eat more whole grains. Choose low-fat options. Exercise more. Count your calories. I followed every single recommendation to the letter, and my numbers got worse. That's when I started questioning everything I thought I knew about blood sugar control. What I discovered over the next 30 days didn't just normalize my glucose levels. It revealed something that's been hiding in plain sight, something that's sabotaging millions of people trying to manage their blood sugar right now. And the most frustrating part? It's a food that's been marketed to us as healthy, as essential, as something we should eat multiple times every single day. Before I reveal what this food is, I need you to understand something crucial. This isn't about willpower. It's not about discipline or motivation. If your blood sugar is high despite your best efforts, it's not your fault. You've been given incomplete information. The conventional approach to blood sugar management is missing a massive piece of the puzzle. A piece that once I removed it, everything changed. Within 1 week, my fasting glucose dropped to 98. By day 14, I was consistently waking up in the low 90s. After 30 days, my fasting glucose averaged 86, and my A1C had fallen to 5.4. I had energy I hadn't felt in years. The afternoon crashes disappeared. My thinking became sharper. Even my chronic inflammation markers improved dramatically. But here's what matters more than my personal story. I started carefully recommending this same approach to select patients who were struggling with blood sugar control. Patients who had tried everything. Patients who were on the verge of starting medication. Patients who had been told their condition was just going to get worse with age. The results were remarkable. Not everyone, but a significant number of people experienced dramatic improvements. Some saw their blood sugar normalize completely within weeks. Others were able to reduce or eliminate their diabetes medications under their doctor's supervision. And they all had one thing in common. They stopped eating the same food I did. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds too simple. Too good to be true. How can removing one food make such a dramatic difference? The answer lies in understanding how your body actually processes what you eat, and why the standard dietary advice for blood sugar control has been fundamentally backwards for decades. Stay with me, because what I'm about to explain will change how you think about every meal you eat. The food I'm talking about isn't sugar. You already know sugar spikes blood glucose. It's not white bread or candy or soda. Those are obvious. This food is something you've been told is healthy. Something that appears in diabetes-friendly meal plans. Something that nutritionists recommend. Something that comes with health claims on the package. And it's probably sitting in your kitchen right now. Let me paint you a picture of what happens inside your body when you eat this food. The moment it enters your mouth, enzymes begin breaking it down. Within minutes of swallowing, it starts converting into glucose. Not slowly, like you've been told. Rapidly. Your blood sugar begins to climb. Your pancreas detects this surge and releases insulin to handle the glucose flood. But here's where the problem starts. This food doesn't just cause one spike. It triggers a cascade. The rapid rise in blood sugar leads to a rapid rise in insulin. That insulin drives the glucose into your cells aggressively. So aggressively that your blood sugar often drops too low a few hours later. You feel hungry again. Tired. Foggy. Craving more food. And what do you reach for? Often more of the same food that started the cycle. This pattern repeats 3, 4, 5 times a day, every single day. Your pancreas is working overtime. Your cells are being bombarded with insulin, and over time something devastating happens. Your cells start ignoring the insulin signal. They become resistant. So your pancreas has to produce even more insulin to get the same effect. More insulin means more fat storage, more inflammation, more oxidative stress, more damage to your blood vessels. This is the path to type 2 diabetes, and it's being paved by a food most people eat at every single meal. I eliminated this food completely for 30 days, not reduced it, not moderated it, eliminated it. And I replaced those calories with foods that actually stabilize blood sugar, foods rich in healthy fats, complete proteins, and fiber from vegetables. Foods that don't trigger that insulin roller coaster. The transformation wasn't just in my blood sugar numbers. My relationship with hunger changed completely. I stopped experiencing those desperate, shaky feelings that demanded immediate food. I could go 4, 5, 6 hours between meals without thinking about eating. My energy became steady throughout the day instead of spiking and crashing. But the most profound change was realizing how much of my daily experience had been controlled by blood sugar instability, without me even knowing it. The irritability, the brain fog, the constant low-level anxiety, the afternoon exhaustion, all of it connected to the blood sugar roller coaster I'd been riding for years. Now I need to be crystal clear about something before we go any further. I am not telling you to stop taking any medications your doctor has prescribed. I am not saying this approach will work for everyone. And I'm absolutely not suggesting you make dramatic changes to your diet without medical supervision, especially if you're taking diabetes medication. What I am saying is that you deserve to know the full picture. You deserve to understand why conventional advice might not be working for you. And you deserve to have all the information so you can make the best decision for your own health in partnership with your physician. The food I stopped eating is something that's been called the foundation of a healthy diet for generations. It's been placed at the base of every food pyramid you've ever seen. Government nutrition guidelines recommend you eat 6 to 11 servings of it every day. It's fortified with vitamins and minerals and marketed as heart-healthy, energy-boosting, and essential for proper nutrition. I'm talking about grains, specifically all grains: wheat, rice, oats, corn, barley, quinoa, the entire category, both refined and whole grain versions, everything from bread and pasta to cereal and crackers, even the ones labeled whole grain, high fiber, and multigrain. For 30 days, I eliminated every single form of grain from my diet, and that's when my blood sugar finally normalized. Now, before you close this video thinking I've lost my mind, hear me out. I understand how radical this sounds. Grains have been part of human agriculture for 10,000 years. They're woven into every culture's cuisine. They're affordable, convenient, and satisfying. The idea of removing them completely feels extreme, unnecessary, maybe even dangerous. I felt the same way. But then I looked at the actual science, not the dietary guidelines written by committees with conflicts of interest, but the metabolic research showing what happens inside your body when you consume grains. And I looked at my own patients, hundreds of them over the years who struggled with blood sugar despite following all the conventional advice. The ones who ate their whole wheat bread and brown rice and steel-cut oatmeal and still couldn't get their A1C below 7. What I found was a pattern so clear it was impossible to ignore. Let me explain exactly what grains do to your blood sugar and why whole grains aren't the solution you've been promised. Every grain, whether it's refined white flour or whole wheat, is primarily composed of starch. Starch is nothing more than long chains of glucose molecules bonded together. The moment you start chewing grain-based food, an enzyme in your saliva called amylase begins breaking those bonds. By the time that food reaches your small intestine, it's being rapidly converted into pure glucose. Yes, whole grains contain fiber, which slightly slows this process. But the difference is marginal. Studies using continuous glucose monitors show that whole wheat bread spikes blood sugar almost as much as white bread. 2 slices of whole wheat bread can raise your blood glucose higher than eating 2 tablespoons of pure white sugar. Let that sink in. The food you've been told is essential for managing blood sugar often raises it more than candy. And it's not just bread. A cup of brown rice can spike your glucose to 180 or higher. A bowl of oatmeal, even steel cut, can send you over 160. That whole grain pasta you switched to? Still a glucose bomb. Your body doesn't care about the marketing claims on the package. It responds to the chemical reality of what you're putting in your mouth. But the blood sugar spike is only part of the problem. What happens next is equally damaging. That surge of glucose triggers your pancreas to release a massive amount of insulin. Insulin's job is to take glucose out of your bloodstream and store it. Some goes into muscle and liver as glycogen. But those storage sites fill up quickly. Once they're full, the excess glucose gets converted into fat and stored in your adipose tissue. More insulin means more fat storage. It also means more inflammation. Chronically elevated insulin is directly linked to increased inflammatory markers throughout your body. Inflammation damages your blood vessels, contributes to arterial plaque formation, and accelerates aging at the cellular level. This is why uncontrolled blood sugar doesn't just lead to diabetes. It leads to heart disease, kidney disease, nerve damage, vision problems, and cognitive decline. Your entire body suffers when your blood sugar regulation is broken. Here's another aspect most people don't know. Grains contain compounds that actively interfere with nutrient absorption. Phytic acid, found in high concentrations in whole grains, binds to minerals like iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium, preventing your body from absorbing them. So not only are grains spiking your blood sugar, they're also blocking your ability to get nutrition from other foods you're eating. Lectins, another class of proteins found in grains, can damage the lining of your intestinal wall, contributing to increased intestinal permeability. This allows partially digested food particles and bacterial fragments to enter your bloodstream, triggering immune responses and chronic low-grade inflammation. For some people, this manifests as digestive issues. For others, it shows up as joint pain, skin problems, or autoimmune flare-ups. And for many, it contributes to the insulin resistance that drives pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. When I eliminated grains, I replaced those calories strategically. My breakfast changed from toast and orange juice to eggs cooked in butter with avocado and sautéed vegetables. My lunch shifted from a sandwich to a large salad with olive oil dressing, grilled chicken, nuts, and cheese. Dinner became a protein, usually fish or grass-fed meat, with 2 or 3 different vegetable sides cooked in healthy fats. Snacks became things like nuts, cheese, olives, or vegetables with guacamole. The first 3 days were admittedly challenging. I felt hungry more often than usual. My body was accustomed to running on glucose from grains, and it needed time to adapt to using fat for fuel instead. I experienced some headaches and fatigue as my metabolism shifted. This is completely normal and temporary. By day 4, something remarkable happened. My hunger stabilized. I could eat breakfast at 7 in the morning and not think about food until 1 in the afternoon. No mid-morning energy crash. No desperate need for a snack. My thinking became clearer. I felt calmer, more focused, more emotionally stable. And my glucose meter confirmed what I was feeling. My fasting blood sugar dropped from 112 to 102 within the first week. My post-meal spikes, which used to hit 160 or higher, were now staying below 120. By the end of week 2, I was consistently waking up with fasting glucose in the mid-90s. My afternoon readings were stable in the 80s and low 90s. No more roller coaster, no more spikes and crashes, just steady, healthy blood sugar levels that my body could manage effortlessly. The weight loss was an unexpected bonus. I lost 9 pounds in 30 days without counting a single calorie or restricting portion sizes. I ate when I was hungry, until I was satisfied, and the weight came off naturally because my insulin levels had normalized, and my body could finally access stored fat for energy. Now I want to address the concerns that are probably running through your mind right now, because I had every single one of them before I started this experiment. The first concern is nutritional deficiency. We've been told grains are essential sources of B vitamins, fiber, and energy. Won't eliminating them cause serious nutritional problems? The answer is no, and here's why. Every single nutrient found in grains can be obtained in more bioavailable forms from other foods. B vitamins are abundant in meat, fish, eggs, and leafy green vegetables. In fact, the B vitamins in animal foods are more easily absorbed than the synthetic versions added to fortified grain products. Fiber comes from vegetables, nuts, seeds, and low-sugar fruits. A large salad with mixed greens, cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, and avocado contains more fiber than 2 slices of whole wheat bread, plus a massive array of vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that grains simply don't provide. As for energy, this is where the biggest misconception exists. Yes, grains provide quick energy in the form of glucose. But that quick energy comes with the blood sugar spike and crash we've already discussed. When you fuel your body with healthy fats and adequate protein instead, you get steady, sustained energy that lasts for hours without the peaks and valleys. Your body is perfectly capable of producing all the glucose it needs through a process called gluconeogenesis, where the liver converts protein and fat into glucose. You don't need to eat glucose to have glucose in your bloodstream. Your body is a sophisticated biological machine that can manufacture exactly what it needs when you provide the right raw materials. The second concern is cost. Grains are inexpensive. Meat, fish, eggs, nuts, and fresh vegetables are more expensive. How can average people afford to eat this way? This is a legitimate concern, and I want to be honest about it. Yes, this approach can cost more if you're buying premium organic grass-fed everything, but it doesn't have to. Eggs are one of the most affordable and nutrient-dense foods available. A dozen eggs costs less than $5 in most places and provides 12 high-quality meals or snacks. Chicken thighs, fatty fish like sardines and mackerel, and ground beef are relatively inexpensive protein sources. Frozen vegetables are just as nutritious as fresh and often cheaper. Buying in bulk, shopping sales, and choosing seasonal produce all help manage costs. And here's something most people don't consider. When your blood sugar is stable and your hunger is regulated, you naturally eat less frequently. I went from eating 6 times a day, constantly snacking to manage hunger and energy crashes, to eating 2 or 3 satisfying meals. The total amount of food I was buying actually decreased. Plus, there's the long-term cost savings of avoiding diabetes medications, managing complications, and dealing with the cascade of health problems that come from years of uncontrolled blood sugar. An investment in food quality now is far cheaper than medical bills later. The third concern is social and cultural. What about birthday cake, holiday meals, eating at restaurants, family gatherings? Won't this approach make you a social outcast? I'm not going to lie to you. There are social challenges. We live in a grain-based food culture. Pizza, pasta, bread baskets, sandwich platters, dinner rolls, desserts. They're everywhere. But here's what I learned. You have more control than you think. At restaurants, simply ask for extra vegetables instead of rice or pasta. Order the burger without the bun. Choose the grilled fish with a double portion of asparagus. Most restaurants are happy to accommodate. At family gatherings, fill your plate with the turkey, the roast, the vegetables, the salad. Skip the stuffing and rolls. Bring a dish you can eat to contribute to the meal. And on truly special occasions, a single meal won't destroy your progress. The key is making the exception truly exceptional, not a daily occurrence. What surprised me most was how quickly people around me adapted. Some were curious and wanted to know more. A few were skeptical or even critical. But most didn't care what was on my plate once they saw I wasn't judging what was on theirs. And several people, after seeing my results, decided to try the same approach themselves. The fourth concern is long-term sustainability. Can you really live the rest of your life without grains? Isn't this just another fad diet that you'll eventually quit? This is the most important question, and the answer depends entirely on how you frame it. If you view this as deprivation, as giving up foods you love, as suffering through some restrictive diet, then no, it's not sustainable. You'll eventually rebel and go back to old patterns. But if you reframe it as choosing foods that make you feel amazing, that stabilize your energy, that normalize your blood sugar, that reduce your risk of serious disease, then it becomes empowering rather than restrictive. I don't feel deprived. I feel liberated. Liberated from the constant hunger, liberated from the energy crashes, liberated from watching my blood sugar climb despite doing everything I was told to do. And here's the truth. After 30 days of eliminating grains, I tested my response by reintroducing them. I ate a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast to see what would happen. Within an hour, my blood sugar had spiked to 172. I felt foggy, tired, and irritable. By mid-morning, I was ravenously hungry again. My body had given me clear, undeniable feedback. The food I'd been told was healthy was making me sick. That experience removed any lingering doubt. I now have over 18 months of living grain-free. My fasting glucose averages 84. My A1C is 5.1. I have more energy at 56 than I had at 40. My patients who have adopted this approach report similar experiences. Let me share a few of their stories. Robert, 68 years old, came to see me with an A1C of 7.8. He was on 2 diabetes medications, and his doctor was considering adding insulin. His fasting glucose was regularly over 150. I explained this approach to him carefully, emphasizing that he needed to work with his physician to monitor his medications, as his blood sugar improved. He committed to 30 days. Within 2 weeks, his fasting glucose had dropped so significantly that his doctor reduced one of his medications. By 6 weeks, he was off both medications entirely, maintaining normal blood sugar through diet alone. His last A1C was 5.6. Patricia, 72, had struggled with pre-diabetes for 8 years. She'd followed every dietary recommendation. She ate whole grains at every meal, limited her fat intake, counted calories religiously. Her blood sugar kept creeping up year after year. After eliminating grains and increasing her healthy fat intake, her fasting glucose normalized within 3 weeks. She lost 23 pounds over 4 months without hunger or calorie counting. She told me she finally understands what it feels like to be truly satisfied after a meal. James, 54, was my most skeptical patient. He's a marathon runner who believed he needed carbohydrates for energy and performance. His fasting glucose was 118 and climbing despite running 40 miles per week. I challenged him to try 30 days. He was shocked to discover his running performance actually improved. His pace times got faster, his recovery improved, and his fasting glucose dropped to 91. He's now been grain-free for over a year and recently completed his fastest marathon ever. These stories aren't miraculous outliers. They represent a fundamental principle of human metabolism that's been obscured by decades of misguided nutritional advice. Your body is designed to run efficiently on fat and protein, with glucose produced as needed rather than constantly consumed from external sources. When you stop flooding your system with grain-based carbohydrates, your metabolism shifts into a more stable, efficient state. But I want to be absolutely clear about who this approach is for and who needs to be more cautious. If you have type 1 diabetes, you require insulin regardless of diet, and any dietary changes must be made under close medical supervision with careful insulin adjustment. If you're taking medications for type 2 diabetes, especially insulin or sulfonylureas, eliminating grains without medical supervision could cause dangerously low blood sugar. You must work with your physician to adjust medications as your blood sugar improves. If you have kidney disease, increasing protein intake may not be appropriate. Again, medical guidance is essential. If you have a history of eating disorders, any restrictive dietary approach should be discussed with a mental health professional first. For everyone else, particularly those with prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, or stubbornly high blood sugar despite conventional interventions, this approach offers a scientifically sound alternative worth considering. Now let me give you the practical framework for implementing this if you decide to move forward. The first step is education. Understand what foods contain grains and grain derivatives. The obvious ones are bread, pasta, rice, cereal, crackers, cookies, and cakes. But grains hide in unexpected places. Soy sauce contains wheat. Many processed meats contain grain fillers. Salad dressings often have wheat or corn derivatives. Thickeners in soups and sauces are frequently grain-based. You need to become a label reader. If you see wheat, rice, corn, oats, barley, rye, or any derivative of these grains in the ingredient list, it's not compatible with this approach. The second step is planning. You cannot successfully eliminate grains if you don't have acceptable alternatives readily available. Stock your kitchen with foods you can eat. Eggs, multiple varieties. Different proteins including beef, chicken, pork, fish, and seafood. A wide selection of vegetables, both fresh and frozen. Healthy fats like olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee, coconut oil. Nuts and seeds, though watch portions as they can be calorie-dense. Full-fat dairy if you tolerate it well, including cheese, plain yogurt, and cream. Avocados, olives, and low-sugar fruits like berries in moderation. Meal planning becomes crucial, especially in the beginning. Decide what you'll eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next 3 days. Shop specifically for those meals. Prep ingredients in advance if possible. Having food ready to eat removes the temptation to grab convenient grain-based options when you're hungry. The third step is commitment to a specific time frame. I recommend 30 days as a minimum. This gives your body enough time to adapt metabolically and for you to experience the full benefits. It's also long enough to break the psychological dependence on grains as comfort foods. Make a firm decision that for these 30 days, you're all in. No cheating, no exceptions, no just this once. Partial elimination won't give you the results you're looking for and will make the process harder because you'll constantly be negotiating with yourself. The fourth step is tracking. Measure your fasting blood sugar every morning. If you have a continuous glucose monitor, even better. Track how you feel throughout the day. Energy levels, hunger patterns, mood, sleep quality, mental clarity. Take measurements and progress photos if weight loss is a goal. Write down what you eat, not to count calories, but to identify patterns and foods that work well for you. This data becomes incredibly motivating as you watch your numbers improve and your symptoms resolve. The fifth step is managing the adaptation period. The first 3 to 5 days can be challenging. You may experience headaches, fatigue, irritability, or stronger than usual hunger. This is normal and temporary. Your body is shifting from burning primarily glucose to burning primarily fat. This metabolic shift takes a few days. Stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water, even more than usual. Consider adding electrolytes, particularly sodium, potassium, and magnesium. When you reduce carbohydrate intake, your kidneys release more water and electrolytes, which can cause the symptoms I mentioned. A cup of bone broth with added salt can work wonders. Don't restrict calories during this adaptation phase. Eat until you're satisfied. Your body is going through a significant metabolic adjustment. Once you're adapted, natural appetite regulation will kick in, and you'll likely eat less without effort. The sixth step is patience and consistency. Some people see dramatic improvements within days. Others take a few weeks. Individual variation is normal. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's. Trust the process and stay consistent. If after 2 weeks you're not seeing any improvement in blood sugar, review what you're actually eating. Sometimes foods we think are grain-free contain hidden sources. Sometimes portion sizes of nuts or dairy are too high. Sometimes we're not eating enough protein or fat to feel satisfied. Adjust and continue. Now let me address what happens after the initial 30 days. You have several options. Option 1 is to continue indefinitely with complete grain elimination. Many people, including myself, find this so beneficial that it becomes a permanent lifestyle. The improvements in blood sugar, energy, mental clarity, and overall health make the dietary restriction feel insignificant. Option 2 is to reintroduce small amounts of grain strategically and observe your body's response. Some people find they can tolerate occasional rice or oats without significant blood sugar disruption, while wheat products always cause problems. You can experiment carefully, measuring your glucose response to different grains to identify which ones, if any, you can include occasionally. Option 3 is to adopt a cyclical approach, eating grain-free most of the time, but allowing planned exceptions for special occasions or social events. This works for some people, but requires discipline to ensure exceptions don't become the rule. The key is that after 30 days, you have data. You know how your body responds without grains. You know what your blood sugar does when grains are eliminated. You have a baseline of how good you can feel. Any decision to reintroduce grains should be made consciously, with full awareness of the trade-offs, not out of habit or unconscious eating patterns. I also want to talk about the psychological aspect of this change, because it's just as important as the physiological aspect. Food is deeply emotional. Grains aren't just nutrition. They're comfort, tradition, celebration, nostalgia. Bread reminds you of your grandmother's kitchen. Pasta represents family dinners. Birthday cake marks important milestones. Removing these foods can feel like losing something significant. Acknowledge this. Don't minimize the emotional component. It's real and valid. But also recognize that you're not actually losing anything valuable. You're releasing something that's been harming you, even if it came wrapped in positive memories and cultural significance. You can create new food traditions, new celebrations, new comfort foods that actually make you feel good, rather than just triggering temporary pleasure followed by physical consequences. And something remarkable often happens. When your blood sugar stabilizes and your brain is no longer experiencing the glucose roller coaster, emotional eating decreases naturally. The compulsive cravings that felt impossible to resist simply fade away. You develop a healthier, calmer relationship with food. You eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're satisfied, and food stops occupying so much mental and emotional space. Let me bring this full circle. The reason I'm sharing this information is not to sell you a program or push a particular agenda. It's because I've seen too many people suffer unnecessarily. I've watched patients follow every recommendation, take their medications faithfully, exercise regularly, and still watch their blood sugar climb year after year. I've seen the confusion, the frustration, the sense of failure when nothing seems to work. And I've discovered that in many cases, the problem wasn't lack of willpower or poor compliance. The problem was the fundamental approach itself. Telling someone with blood sugar issues to eat whole grains is like telling someone with a peanut allergy to eat organic peanuts. The quality doesn't change the fundamental reaction. Your next step is yours to decide. You can continue doing what you've been doing and hope for different results. Or you can try something different for 30 days and see what happens in your own body. Not based on what I'm telling you, but based on your own measured blood sugar readings and how you actually feel. Make this decision in partnership with your physician. Show them this information. Discuss whether this approach makes sense given your specific health situation. If you're on medications, create a monitoring plan so doses can be adjusted safely as your blood sugar improves. Track everything. Measure daily. Pay attention to your body's signals. Give it the full 30 days before making any judgments. And whatever you discover, you'll have learned something valuable about your own metabolism and what works for your unique body. Your health is worth the experiment. Your future is worth the effort. Take care of yourself.